Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Tourists. My name is Tom Jordan. I am your host. I am joined today by Dani Magellan. Say hello, Dani.
Hello, Dani.
There we are. And I'm also joined as well by Ross Andrews, paranormal borrower.
I think you just said them.
And I'm also joined by Ross Andrews, paranormal expert.
Hello.
We are regrettably absent today of our good friend Sam Bean, also known as the Ghost Gimp. There is an empty chair for him at
Gone
the table.
Ghost Gimp.
It's a really sad sight that we've still put the 4 chairs out.
That we've still put the chair out. Although, admittedly, we haven't put a microphone out for him today. That would possibly.
I mean,
be
we
going
sometimes
too far.
don't put a microphone out for him when he's here. So.
Occasionally.
Well, there was a paranormal happening involving him this morning, and that was the fact that I only packed 3 mic stands. So there we go. Obviously, there was a psychic link there, knowing he wasn't going to be here.
Once again, we were interfered with by the spirits.
We were, well, and I think you should possibly explain the paranormal voice that we hear in the background.
So you may at points hear the disembodied sound of a small child. That is not.
So you disembodied a small child.
That is,
Wow.
That's harsh.
that is not the sound of Sam Bean having regressed back to being a small child. He is on
Is that
assignment
possible?
once again. Is it possible? I don't know. Well, that's where Ross Andrews, paranormal expert, comes in. That, in actual fact, is a real small child who is my daughter, and she is out and about in the garden painting
Scary faces covered in glitter.
scary faces.
Using
I mean,
a lot of glitter.
she's done a friendly face, and that was pretty scary. She's done a scary face, and that's extremely scary. And she has coated absolutely everything in glitter. She doesn't quite tie the thought of glitter and glue together. So there's lots of glitter.
I mean, they are fantastic scary faces, but I would put them on the website, except for the fact you might have social services knocking on the door. Saying, why is your child drawing this?
I mean, it's quite. I mean, perhaps we should do an episode on demonic possession. Because that is not the artwork of a small child. Okay, so moving swiftly on. I'm also going to apologise for hasn't happened yet, but the coughing fit that will come at some point. Because
And you do know now with auto-suggestion, people everywhere have started coughing. Something's just moved. Something just moved in the studio.
What was
want,
that?
There we are. Doesn't want me to cough.
What that is, bizarrely, is the medicine that you've just gone and got.
That is.
As soon as you mentioned it, it just moved on of its own accord.
Maybe it was annoyed you didn't give it due credit. Like, I'm the reason you're not coughing, asshole.
Hopefully I'll try and keep the coughing to a minimum, but I have a chest infection, unfortunately. I believe I'm not alone in the table having a chest infection either as well.
What we will do, Tom, is mark your microphone with plague written across it so that I
Use
don't
bleach.
use that one.
A biohazard warning.
Are you contagious?
Am I contagious?
In life, generally.
I mean, as long as you wash your hands once you've been in my
Once
presence
you touched
or used my microphone, that is.
It is a general rule. Once visiting Tom, wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Just don't.
I'm not alone though in having a chest infection, am I? Own up.
In
Own
the
up.
world?
Own up.
Fine.
That's me coughing now.
Ross
You set me
also
off.
has.
We're doomed.
No, I too have a slight. Although I'm still pretty convinced that mine's just a sort of throat infection after having a tube down it.
But we will
You
point
should
out
probably
Sam is
explain that
not
further.
being ill. He's just off somewhere.
He is
Yes.
as
He is adventuring
As-
into the unknown.
indeed.
Now, come on, Manchester's not that unknown. I know. It might feel like
He
it,
is
but
north.
he's north of the wall.
So, with all the admin out of the way,
Right.
shall we proceed?
Indeed.
This week, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent.
Oh my God, no, don't do it.
And,
Don't tell us you've read another book.
Well, not another book
Oh, right.
as such.
The second half of the book.
I mean, regrettably, this is still the first half of the book. I mean, when I said a tangent, what I meant was
You've turned a page.
this week. I am going to be using research from Peter Eldon's wonderful masterpiece, Amazing Spooks and Mysteries. Although actually, I feel like credit should additionally go to Kim Blundell. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct, but that's the story of my life. For illustrating this fabulous tome, if you can find it for yourself.
Wow, poor Kim. That's the first time you've mentioned
It is.
it.
I do feel bad.
It's taken how many episodes till we've got Kim's name mentioned at all?
I mean, I'm not sure we need to do a running count, but Kim, if you're out there listening, I am terribly sorry.
I feel you should almost release a book yourself of all your collected research. Unfortunately, it would be majorly copyrighted.
As it happens, we are compiling a book of tales, but they are regrettably not as much as I would love to reprint Amazing Spooks and Mysteries. I imagine someone somewhere is still holding this magical tome, waiting for its moment to be re-released. Phantom Coach.
Mm-hmm. We don't mean a coach trip to see Phantom in the West End or anything like that, right?
No. Not the megabus. Or even the Oxford Tube after the park and ride.
Yes.
So I
mean, being very south-centric here, aren't we?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah. We will shift our visions further. So I mean, this is a short tale, really, and this is one that takes place in Cornwall. Each Christmas, we've had this come up before, this idea of recurring dates, which I'll let you comment on, Ross, shortly.
Indeed. But I'm on tenterhooks here for the actual ghost story. I
mean, essentially what it is, and what I found interesting about this is, again, it's a very defined kind of recurring theme throughout kind of fiction and non-fiction. And essentially all it states is that each Christmas at Penryn in Cornwall, in England, for those of you who are listening from overseas, a phantom coach drawn by headless horses is said to appear. Disturbingly, everyone who has seen the spectre has vanished from the face of the earth within a few hours. So
I'm assuming they've told people about the ghost before they've disappeared as well.
One assumes.
That seems as though we've got a bit of a story there mixed with myth and legend. Just on the sheer fact that if everyone who saw a particular ghost disappeared, then you've got to tell people pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Within a few hours.
Which today wouldn't be a problem because they'd tweet it and then disappear. Nope, just saw a headless horseman. Lol.
Bye.
Ta-ta.
I mean, like I said, this one interested me because there's a kind of recurrent
and it's
theme.
from the same book.
It is from the same book.
So you were too frightened to go to Texas just in case you
angry movies.
Ran into the angry movies. But you were all right with living relatively just sort of down a motorway from
I don't know why this one didn't make so much of an
horseman.
Impact. I think perhaps because it's a much shorter. I mean, it's only in a few lines. It's probably something that I glanced
also
past.
With a lot of the ghost carriages, ghost coachman stories and horse stories, they tend to stick to one particular place. So if as a child you actually looked at a map and went, you know what, I'm not going to visit there, so you'll be fine if you avoid it. There's a hell of a lot of ghost stories, and they've morphed into the Phantom Hitchhiker stories, especially, where the theory is it's kind of a stone tape theory where something has happened and it's been recorded in the atmosphere and someone comes along and sees something happening. Now, one theory to do with that is coaches, as in like coachmen. We're not talking coaches as in, as we said, like the megabus driving around. We're talking these sort of like stagecoach type things. They're often seen in places where there are very little modern buildings. So it's kind of like the brain has been tricked into, well, this could happen here because it's not in the middle of a city. It's not. It's sort of out in the middle of the countryside somewhere. Sure. So the idea is that the brain is creating a picture that would have fit in with any time. Now, as soon as a whole bunch of high-rise flats appear, those ghosts seem to disappear from that area.
Yeah.
And you very rarely get them. Now, the Phantom Hitchhiker stories, you can still get those within a town because that would fit in with a modern-day story.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not a real ghost or anything. What I mean is a real ghost. What's a real ghost? What I mean is as soon as you alter the surroundings, suddenly the ghost feels as though, oh, I'm not supposed to be here. I'll go somewhere else, or it disappears altogether. If you alter a place's surroundings, certain ghosts will disappear, and certainly with the coach ones, that happens a lot. There's several round here. We're in Cheltenham, and there's a couple near here. I think there's one about 10 miles up the road of a coachman. In fact, there's two that I know of. And I will have to find out where they are again because I've forgotten. But one is a coachman that's sort of zooming around a corner. And it ends up on two wheels and, you know, like a high-speed chase type thing. And I can't remember what it is, but I will hopefully by the end of this remember. And there's another one of a coach that's on fire. Oh, and another one near in Burford, where a coach is seen to, almost like in Father Christmas style, ends up going over the top of the houses.
Oh, wow.
And I think that one is on fire as well. I'm not entirely sure, but I will definitely do some research on that one. There is a book by, I think it's Liz White. I think she mentions the one in Burford. And I will talk about that one in a future podcast, but I think that one is Haunted Cotswolds. I think it'll tell you something about that one in Burford. Well worth going. Burford, beautiful, beautiful place. It's got lots of ghost stories, particularly related to the church. And if you're lucky, you will hear the phantom bells that go on in there. But the whole village and high street of the village and so on, it's all buildings that are at least 300 years old stone buildings. So well worth a visit if you are touristing in that area. That's right on the edge of Gloucestershire and Oxfordshire.
So interestingly, having heard Ross mention a couple of these other similar stories, now I'd purposely this week gone for a really short account, like I said, because part of the interest was how frequently these different stories kind of appear, and to some extent in my head, part of that was not just coaches and things, but headless horsemen and headless assistants. But actually, I just had a very brief flick through Amazing Spooks and Mysteries.
What he means is, I bored him and he started reading his book.
But interestingly, in addition to the two that Ross has just mentioned, I've just found another two that are both phantom coaches.
Yep.
So one is Anne Boleyn's Gallop. It's entitled, and according to this, at midnight on the anniversary of her execution, 19th of May 1539, the ghost of Anne Boleyn travels from the Tower of London to Blickling Hall in Norfolk. She rides in a phantom coach driven by headless coachmen and pulled by headless horses, and she sits inside. She too is headless.
Now, on the headless front, if you were to see a horse and cart go past you, the likelihood is you're not staring at the driver's head. You're staring at the horses, partly from a flight or fight response, because you're thinking, is this thing about to run me over? So the idea being is, one theory is that you're picking up on somebody else's memory of seeing this thing go past. Now, you don't necessarily see the faces, because if it's somebody they didn't know, it hasn't clicked in their psyche, as it were. Okay. Oh, that's Tom, that's Dani, that whatever, driving a coach. That's a person driving past. Yeah. So the image of that face isn't there. And so when you come along hundreds of years later, in theory, you're going to pick up on the picture that somebody has thought left stone taped into the environment, and you're not going to see a face, because the face is a very complicated thing to recognize, as in like a particular person. Same with horses' faces and all that kind of stuff. And so what you're seeing is the gist of the image. Sure. It's a horse, it's a carriage with a faceless man on it, and sometimes that'll transfer into it's a headless man, because I don't know who the face was of. Obviously, yet again, you're explaining magic with magic, but that is one theory behind why they're headless.
In theory, cool. Okay. So then further to that, this is an according to legend one. So according to legend, a girl at I'm not bad at pronouncing things, but
and by according to legend, we're not talking the Tim Curry film.
Potter Higham in Norfolk. She sold her soul to the devil in the year 1742. She was carried off in a coach by demons, but the coach crashed as it crossed a bridge, and all the occupants fell into the river. Each year, it's quite a busy calendar if you're interested in seeing phantom coaches. Each year on 31st of May, a phantom coach driven by a skeleton is said to pass over the bridge.
That's impressive. A skeleton.
Wow.
Yeah. The problem
that's really lazy in remembering details, like to only see the skeleton.
The problem we've had, and I think we've mentioned it before, with calendar ghosts, I know we've talked about it before, is that the calendar changes. And when we swapped over to the sort of Gregorian calendar, we lost 2 weeks at one point. And yet ghosts that predate that seem to have worked this out. And instead of something that appeared on May the 20th, should have moved into June, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
It just still appears on May the 20th. And you go, well, how does that happen?
Committed.
Well, and we've got leap years, haven't we, as well? So theoretically, you're losing. I love the idea that somewhere within the spectral union, there's a memo that gets passed around by...
Don't forget to set your clocks back.
Yeah. Please make a note in your diary this year that May 31st will not be on the same time scale as last year.
But in some ways, the theory is that it's almost showing you proof that ghosts aren't an external thing, they're an internal thing, that the people are creating the ghost.
Sure.
Because they are expecting something to happen on that day. They've somehow created an energy that makes that happen. Yeah. Certainly when you get to poltergeist activity, that's definitely thought to be not necessarily anything to do with spirits and ghosts, it's to do with the people involved.
Yeah.
Now, if everybody, say 100 people turn up to some castle, all of which know that on that day somebody got murdered and the ghost is supposed to come back on that day, well, it's highly likely that they are creating the ghost somehow.
Yeah.
I don't mean a man is running around with a sheet over his head going, woo, like that. What I mean is
well, maybe.
Yeah, it could well be. It might, but somehow their collective energies therefore create something to appear. Yet again, magic with magic.
I mean, on a purely sort of skeptical level, I mean, one would assume that if you're interested in this sort of thing and you're quite open to sort of different experiences of this nature, and you were to go to that place on the 31st of May, and that it's maybe it's the weather's a bit changeable that day, and you've not had quite enough sleep, and you really want it to happen, and you kind of you're just sure at some point you hear the sound of
an angry moo beast.
Of an angry moo beast. If you know that that's the right place and that's the right time,
Well, I know we've talked about it before. I can't remember if we've talked about it on podcast, but the brain sort of sticks everything into little compartments, and it goes to that compartment first. If you're like somewhere where you're expecting to see something, it goes straight to that compartment and says, is this the thing I'm expecting to see? No. Okay. Then goes to the next likely thing. Is this the thing I'm likely to see? No. Okay. Anyway, totally off on a tangent, but still trying to explain that concept. One of the theories, when you're drowning or whatever, and you see your life flash before your eyes, is the brain going through everything it can until it can find a solution to the problem it's in. So it goes, is it this? Is it like this? Is it like this? When you were 6, this happened. Is it like that? Is it 12? This happened. And so that's your life flashing before your eyes until eventually it goes, oh, I found a solution. When you were 15, you learned to swim. Now start swimming. And the idea is that a ghost could be like that, where you're going somewhere, you're expecting this story to happen, so it goes to that part of the brain and says, I think I've just seen something. Perhaps it ties in with this story. If it does, here's the image. And you see the ghost.
Like a kind of search engine.
Yeah. It'll go for the top 10 most searched ghost on this castle. Is it this one? No.
The more films that come out, the more that is then imprinted with like the girl from The Ring and the,
exactly.
Which is actually probably not far from the truth in reality. And we this kind of ties into stuff we've talked to you about before as well with faces.
Yeah.
It's not that long ago that we've talked about faces in the floor, or I don't know if we've talked about faces in the mirror yet.
I don't know, but what certainly your house is infected with glittery monster faces.
Yeah, I mean, one of them I am struggling to see a face in, but the other I'm seeing a face that I am sure will haunt me across many a night.
We are going to make Ghost Gimp look at himself in the mirror for a long time as well at some point, aren't we?
Yes, we're scrying. And if you come along in September to the ghost hunts at the Playhouse, you can stare at him in the mirror.
You too can stare at Ghost Gimp in the mirror.
Or you can stare into the mirror.
And speaking of which,
yourself.
one of those nights is already sold out, so go on our website. The Friday night is completely sold out. We've only got the Saturday left. If you're listening to this in 10 years' time,
then you probably
may well have missed out on that.
I think that's probably enough for me and my incredibly short story that then turned into multiple stories from the fantastic, amazing Spooks and Mysteries. Dani, what have you got for us this week?
Hello. Well, first of all, I spoke to my mum recently.
Can we just point out your mum's still alive?
Yes,
right.
yes. On this plane.
So that part of this is not that impressive far.
So far, this is a relatively ordinary story. I spoke to my mum. Now, regular listeners will remember my mum as one, the lady who did a Ouija board and got scared by a farting dog, or two, the lady who appeared naked in a window, making me think she was a headless woman.
And these were separate occasions.
Separate occasions, yeah, years apart. So I told Mum, who would rather be known as Nana Carroll rather than her real name,
Which is Naked Lady.
Which is Naked Dog Farty Lady. Oh, she's going to love me for this.
I feel the title has appeared already.
She has asked me to make it clear that, one, she didn't always used to come downstairs naked. Not true, it's a lie. And two, that the dog didn't, and I have to be emphatic about that, the dog didn't fart. And she did this very lovely impression that for a bit of backstory here, her and her friends, when they were teenagers, they got together at someone's house and there was a dog on a rug kind of asleep. They did a Ouija board, and as they asked if there was anything there, the dog kind of went, and this is her impression that I am giving, but she said the dog went but when I said, yeah, but Mum, that sounds like a fart, she was very expressly clear that it was not a fart, and in fact was a So
I wish we had a video camera on you doing that as well.
I have been asked to pass that on. Nana Carroll will be appearing at the Paranormal Festival. She is
with her amazing troupe of
to be there.
farting dogs.
fully clothed and
So
without
if
a dog.
if you want a real life impression of what the dog did, I'm sure she'd be happy to oblige. Anyway. That's on a slightly
Is this
unrelated
a future feature of each podcast where we have to make apologies for previous stories?
Yeah. Apologies. What did Nana Carroll do next? Right, no, one of the things that I've been doing in doing research is looking at various different mediums. And this week I bought myself one of those weekly magazines.
When we're saying different mediums, are we talking about watercolour and things like that? Or are we talking
Charcoal.
about communicating with dead type mediums?
Oh no, various different items of media, I suppose.
Aha.
So I'd been looking up online and I'd been reading books and things, and there are many good ones. Tom, there's actually more than one. But yesterday
You've got the best. Why bother the rest?
I read a magazine known as Fate and Fortune. I read May's edition, and it was quite a read. Now, one of the things that was in there that I'm going to try, and so keep posted. It's a way of finding your spirit guide. So, for example, what's his name? Derek Acora has Sam.
Yes.
It
is actually quite a complicated name, but he calls him Sam because he can't pronounce it. He's supposed to be, I think he's an ancient Ethiopian something or other.
Oh,
so I can't remember off the top of my head what his name is.
Well, in this month's magazine, it does have quite explicit instructions on how to find.
You've been reading explicit magazines.
yes, on how to find other people to join me. And so I'm going to this week at some point sit down, follow the instructions, see if I can meet my spirit guide. I'll let you know how it goes. But there was just one story in the magazine. Now
if your spirit guide turns out to be a naked woman in a mirror.
A naked headless woman with a farting dog as her companion. It is. That's a separate story. I mean, it's a good one, but she used to work in a funeral home, and basically, the crux of it is, it was a joke played on her by her boss, who hid in one of the big wooden drawers that they kept corpses in, and then sat up and said, "Hello there," and she says she ran, banged into the door, and knocked herself out.
That is massively the sort of joke that I would play on everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, if you worked in a morgue, you would every day as you walked in there, you would assume somebody is going to do that to you.
Yeah. So if anything actually did happen, you'd be like, oh, yeah.
Actually, the biggest danger is somebody might lock you in there. In that case, I take that back. I'm not going to get a job in it.
No. But
until then, that was your main ambition.
I miss her from Star Trek. I liked Whoopi Goldberg in Star Trek.
I'm a big fan of Whoopi Goldberg, but I do want to point out she isn't dead either.
On a paranormal level,
No.
she won an Oscar for the film Ghost.
Oh,
for best supporting
so
actress,
many links. But that actually,
seamless.
in my opinion, isn't the best story that's on that page.
Okay.
So this is just one that I was in a bar by myself reading this, and I found it very difficult to stop giggling. So,
are you changing names for
yes.
purposes of...
Yeah.
Well, it's going to call herself Bob.
Yeah.
So
Bob was reading this magazine. A white witch has lost half her body weight using magic. Insert name here. See? Seamless.
Does her magic spell involve removing sugar from everything she eats?
It's even better in my opinion. So this person, age 30, piled on the pounds as a result of some medical treatment she was receiving. After hitting 21 stone, the hairdresser, that's okay, from Place in the UK, puts her success down to the magic she used to keep her hunger pangs at bay. Now 11 stone, she wants to use her gift to help others like her. I was always very sensitive to the spirit world and classed myself as a spiritualist witch.
Particularly sensitive to Jaffa cake.
In just 1 year, I managed to shed 10 stone and I feel great. Now, at this point, you're thinking, wow, that's some powerful magic. Yeah. She says, I had a gastric sleeve fitted to help me lose weight, but I also cast regular spells to help the weight loss continue. Now,
what it doesn't say is it was fitted by a ghost.
Yeah, it was found. I
think that the science snake may as well just give up his job.
Yeah, he's taken a victory
and become
there.
A medium.
Yeah. I just thought that was so funny. Now, I'm someone who very much does believe in the science snake.
The science snake is interested in facts, so the science snake doesn't really value whether you believe in him.
So I'm loving this episode because if people are tuning in for the first time to this, and they haven't listened to anything previously, and they go, "What on earth are they talking about?"
The science snake sort
angry movie dog,
angry movies,
sort of represents.
We're taking some liberties here. Assuming you've been listening to this previously.
So
if you haven't, maybe you should go back.
Yeah, the science snake is something that is that sciencey part of your brain that says, "Is this real?" And he sits in your left hand.
I think the explanation is worse. We should have just left it at that and gone.
So yes, so I read this magazine. Now I keep a very open mind. I'm not arrogant enough to feel like I know enough to be able to disprove or prove one way or the other. But I do feel with that story that maybe the gastric band had something to do with it.
It was a magic gastric band, though.
Yeah, it could have been. But yes, so there are some fabulous stories in these magazines, and I am considering subscribing just for some, because also, like the experiment to try and find my spirit guide, they do, there are various things that they will talk you through that you can try yourself. And I thought, that could be fun. So I might each week come up with this week I tried, and see how it goes and see how many weeks.
Coming out soon, Dani's book of experiments on the general.
And
I'm going to try casting spells to see if I can lose weight.
See how many weeks it takes me to get possessed.
I'll buy you a bag of elastic bands at the same time.
Yeah.
See if that helps. I've got to now try and think of some weird link, haven't I?
I'm excited.
From amongst all of that,
yeah.
Go, Ross, go.
Well, my link is, I know you went to Worcester yesterday. And you were talking about the story that you just said.
That I read whilst I was in Worcester.
There we go then.
That's true.
I don't know where in Worcester you were when you were reading it.
The Weatherspoons.
No, you weren't.
Oh,
you
no.
You were either in the cathedral or in the Guildhall, weren't you?
Oh, actually, now I come to think of it, you're right.
Wow, seamless link.
Maybe you went there after the Weatherspoons, which used to be a coaching inn and may still be.
And coaches from that inn used to go to the cathedral.
To the cathedral. We've done it, team. We've done it.
We got there. All of that will now be edited out, so none of it makes sense. So, yeah, trying to find some freebie ones. And I know you were in Worcester yesterday, and you were reading a magazine whilst in the Guildhall, weren't you? Which is free to get into.
It is.
In 1721, it was built on a previous site dating back to 1227.
Oh.
Now, the cells the basement was used as cells right up until the 20th century, and it goes back to the Tudor era. And one of the ghosts there is supposedly of a young boy who committed suicide by hanging themselves. and you may hear moaning and screaming of the poor unfortunates who were in the cells, and that's been heard. But if you really want to see one, you head to the assembly room part of the building, where there is a female spirit. If you're lucky, you will see her. If you are less lucky, you might smell her. Not in a bad way. Apparently the smell of perfume will waft across the room just before she's seen. So the smell of perfume and a full female apparition in the Guildhall, and it's free to go in there.
Oh, wow.
It is a beautiful building as well.
And it's a beautiful city.
And what makes it a city?
There's a cathedral.
Yes! Oh, seamless yet again. Wow, who knew we would get onto this? We've been to Worcester Cathedral.
Yes.
And
performed the first play.
Absolutely. I can't remember what it was. I was Herod there,
You
wasn't
were.
I? I was Herod,
You were
yes.
Herod.
In 1084, but that's not the year we did it.
It feels like it was around that time.
I'm trying to be subtle here and make it look like I'm intelligent, but being so blatant with this, knowing what the dates are, it really does show that I'm reading from my notes. It was built on a previous site. Guess when?
1084?
No, 680. Now, this is a very bizarre one. It's a fantastic building. You can go underneath it into the crypts. There's some fantastic stained glass there. There's some brilliant carvings and so on. So if you're into historical buildings, it's a lovely building to get into. And, yet again, completely free. There is the ghost of a bear.
Wow.
Which rears up and tries to attack you.
Wow.
And then, as it goes to attack you, disappears. Now, that, I would have thought, is a kind of story I should know more about. So I have gone through doing research on this, trying to find some more stories of it. Now, there's lots of people saying, oh, there's the ghost of the bear, and so on, and that's about it. I haven't found any stories of people that it has happened to, but lots of people seem to know the story. Okay, or there's no link there in any way. There's no sort of explanation why there is a bear rearing up to kill people in Worcester Cathedral.
Could it be anything to do with... Now, funnily enough, we saw a tapestry, and it was Jupiter who cheated on his wife Juno with somebody, Callisto maybe, who Juno got really annoyed about and so turned them into a bear. And then...
Could well be. And where was this tapestry? That was in Worcester.
That was in Worcester, hanging in the Greyfriars House, which is, again, beautiful. If you have a National Trust membership, it's free to go into. Otherwise, I think it's £5 per adult or something like that. But the guide was telling us about this tapestry, and Jupiter had a child with this Callista. That might not be the right name, so apologies. And the child was out hunting and was faced with the bear and went to shoot the bear. But then Jupiter intervened and sent the bear up to become the Great Bear constellation, and the child up, although he was just a child out hunting, like it seems a bit harsh, but the child
he was 16. It was
16
quite some time after.
now became...
It was different times.
Yeah.
It was
so the child was also turned into a constellation of stars, the little bear.
So not only turned into a constellation, turned into a bear before he was
into a bear. Yeah, so maybe, I don't know whether that's a sort of...
Okay, so this has now turned into an appeal. If anyone knows more about this story,
about the bear.
we desperately want to know what on earth this bear story is related to. So that one's in the cathedral, but there are also hooded monks wandering about. Which you would kind of expect at the cathedral. It's, I would say, what are we looking at? A millennium old, almost.
Wow.
And obviously, if you go back further to 680... No, I've been told I can't go back to 680. No. All right, we'll just stick to the modern building of 1084. Is that okay? Yes, that's okay. You'll hopefully see some hooded monks walking around. Now, if you are in a cathedral and you see hooded monks around, please go up to them and see if they're a ghost. As I was once performing in Gloucester Cathedral, dressed as a monk, me and a few others, and we were doing some history type day. But it was open to the public as well. There was lots of schools coming through, and we were the first couple of monks you bumped into, and we're walking around dressed as monks, no shoes on our feet. And these 2 American tourists came up to us and started saying, "Oh my God, like you haven't got any shoes on. Is that cold?" And we go, "Oh, you get used to it, like this kind of thing." And then they wandered off around the cathedral, and they'd obviously gone around the whole cathedral, bumped into every other person that was performing with us. So there was a nun over in the one side, there was somebody dressed up in medieval clothing, and something, until eventually they bumped back into us again and came up to us and kind of playfully slapped us as though just like, "Oh, you," kind of thing, and hit us. They just said, "You could have told us you were actors." I said, "Yes, but we are stood near the entrance, so anyone who's just walked in has seen 2 tourists come up to 2 monks and punch them." And they're going to think like you did, that we're real monks. So do check that they are real monks or ghosties.
That's fantastic.
Another Worcestershire type
by
one.
punching them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gently.
If you see a nun, punch them in the face. That is the only way of knowing.
The only way to tell.
If they punch you back, they're not real nuns. They're supposed to forgive. Now, I've got an outdoor one for you if it's a lovely sunny day. Ragged Stone Hill, as part of the Malvern Hills. This goes back to another religious-y one. And a friary from Little Malvern Priory confessed to carnal lusts and sins.
Oh.
Oh, yes,
Lovely.
absolutely. And as a penance, he was told to crawl on his hands and knees up the rough side of the hill to the top. And he was doing this every day. I don't know if he mistook that he was only supposed to do it once and did it every day and just got really annoyed. But apparently he got a bit miffed, and eventually on top of the hill, he cursed the hill and its visitors, and anything that fell within the shadow of the hill was therefore cursed from then on.
Oh, wow.
Now, as we've talked about curses before, this curse got nasty, because visitors to that hill after then were Richard III, the Princess in the Tower, and Anne Boleyn, another link to a previous story. So I don't know if we can attribute all of the ills that befell these people because of the curse, but the ghost has been seen. So, if you see a strange-looking man going up and down the hill on his hands and knees, he's either a ghost or a drunk.
Yeah.
One of the two.
That probably draws us to an ending point.
And remember, don't punch nuns.
So, on that note, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much to you as
for joining in.
Thank you very much to Dani Magellan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Ross Andrews.
No, thank you.
Didn't even get to Paranormal expert. And in his absence, thank you very much to Sam Bean, aka the Ghost Gimp.
Thank you.
Tune in next time to find out more about the strange world of the paranormal.
Goodbye. Bye. Goodbye. Goodbye. Bye. Bye.